we go.
Yeah.
Technology. I love it, and I can't stand it.
I know, right? Well, sorry for the mix-up.
Oh, that's okay. If I was perfect, I'd be unbearable.
Oops, hold on one second.
Sure.
Silly dogs. Gotta
Yep.
get them out of here.
Yep, I hear you. So I'm recording this so that we can post it and brag about you and me and the book. And as one of my goals that we didn't discuss is I developed what I call a situational mental health program.
Okay.
And situational mental health is about dealing with life's everyday big stuff. So I get told at 17 I have a chronic illness.
Mm-hmm.
The medical doctor, with good intentions and complete foolishness, told me, well, there's nothing you can do.
Oh, gosh.
Well, in my family, you're not allowed to live in the land of nothing you can do. You visit it, but don't live there. So
right.
I went off to the local university library and came across the Harvard Medical School mind-body clinic information. So there they talked about, if you practice the following things, you might have 20% less symptoms. Oh, that's the handsome housemate?
Oh, yes. I was trying to get the dogs out of here.
Or as I love to tease my friends with husbands, the resident double H, handsome hunk.
There you go. There you go.
Like, you got to have a label for each other that's resilient, uplifting, and all that stuff, right?
Yes.
Yeah. I refer to myself as the resident scratch and dent high mileage guy because it's just, got to have some nonsense in life.
That's right.
Anyway, so I came across research that said that people with chronic illness, there's no cure, but if you do these things, you can have 20% less symptoms, less severity, less frequency. And it was like, 20% is a big number.
That is huge.
So that validated my Shaolin. I took Shaolin Kung Fu for 4 years. I was not very good at martial arts. But mentally, physically, and mentally, emotionally, it was like, wow, they're like talking about like my parents are, and it aligns with my faith. I'm just not a good martial artist physically, but intellectually and emotionally, I went 3 years then with no symptoms.
Really?
Under the microscope, I had colitis. I have no large bowel left, so I can't have colitis anymore because at 27, I had my cancer issues. So if I seem to be really passionate about the topic, during my cancer issues, I fired my therapist because you're too happy. Looked at your chart, you've got stage 3, it's in 4 locations, and you're really seriously ill and you're going to die. I said, well, yeah, but so are you. We're just not sure when. Don't come back. You haven't taken the time to know me.
Yes.
And so that's when I found out they had no skills, no programming for anything for cancer patients in the 80s, and nothing for chronically ill. And it was like, well, okay, Betamax and VHS, all the cost of equipment had come down to 3 digits. Why couldn't every state or province put together, or national associations, put together a couple of hours of how to cope with cancer? They had printed materials, but it was very primitive and decades behind the research.
Right.
So I have a bee in my bonnet, to use old words. And I want to put this course, well, it's well underway. I want it up on PBS. That's a fundraiser with Michael doing his 2-hour overview. And then, for $49.95, you get the book, you get a t-shirt, and you get the DVD presentation. And for $149.97, you get the course, you get the book, you get the t-shirt, and access to. That's my thinking. So that would allow people to know the 30+1. And it's 30+1 because just symbolically, here's 30 days of stories that, wow, you're not alone. Everybody has big stuff when they live life.
Everybody does.
And
exactly.
The +1 is symbolic of hang in there for just one more day. Just one more day.
I like that.
So the goal is to get, in the next 18 months, to get 3 of these books done. So we're down to 5 authors, 6 authors. So if you know anybody that qualifies and you think has a good story,
okay,
we'd love a referral this week because we want to get it done sooner than later.
Okay.
I've met with our editor. She's done 8 other compilation books. There's lots of nice editors out there. but we need an author, we need an editor that can write you and say, I liked all this story, but this paragraph, it's not working for you. We need to talk. And she's politely, firmly wants you to be at your most professional.
That's
And I
good.
told her she'll earn her keep 100 times over with me, because this is easy, this is tough.
Really. Yes.
So we should get going, because I'm recording. We're not live. We're recording, and then I'll put your, you're going to send me your website. You want me to tell people in the name of your company that you want me to promote.
Well, I don't really have a company.
Okay. Okay. But do you have a Facebook page for your, what you do?
No, I don't yet.
Okay. 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 No problems. And it says Kevin's iPad on the screens.
Uh-huh.
Thanks, Kevin, for the loan. So
you get this whole iCloud and everything's under one person.
Well, you know what? It makes it less complicated. We tried to do 2 things for 2 people here.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the machines hiccup. My words with her password, her words with my password. So then it says, you can't access. So she's got her whole machine on her own now, and I got my own. And
well, that's what I intend to do real soon here too.
Yeah. Well, I think that given our terrible economy issues from this virus, you're going to find that there's a whole lot of things either get real cheap or real expensive. I don't think pricing is going to stay the same in 90 days.
Oh, I don't either.
They're going to want to have cash flow in a hurry.
It's really in the last 3 days going crazy here in the US.
Oh, here too. We just closed all our public libraries in my province. You'd say a state, we call it a province.
Right.
So
right.
I signed out 3 books. That'll get me through about a week and a half of spare time reading.
There you go.
Fiction books are my drug of choice.
I like fiction.
So do I. I read Kellerman. You heard of him?
I've heard of him, but I haven't read him.
Okay, well, he's actually in his professional life, he's a trained psychologist. He wrote a book about children and pediatrics and mental health.
Really?
He's a hobbyist in guitars, and his murder mysteries I love because he makes you think. He doesn't spoon feed you. Now there's some typical nonsense. In his one series, the main character marries this younger woman who's got red hair. Well, there's that girl from high school that I never did date, that I never had the courage to ask out, with the light freckles and the red hair. And I read that book and I'm thinking, oh yeah.
Brings you to a different place.
He knows how to make this man appreciate. And I speed read. So I was given the gift of speed reading in public school. And so I was in the top 2% back then for speed. So I read so fast that I make a movie. I don't read the characters' names. I don't care about the characters' names. It's fiction. Yes. I just read about the police detective and his really incredible spouse with the red hair and his daughter from the first marriage with the black hair. And I just remember how they look and how he's trying at middle age to still pretend he's 32 because she's 32. And a wife that's this nice and so awesome would marry an old guy of 44. Well, you got to keep the look going because she gets a lot of looks and she's fully alive. I got to be able to keep up. I just love them. So I read Kellerman, and I can't think of the name, but there's a guy that writes a murder mystery book. It's just fluff. It really is ear candy or eye candy or whatever for the brain. And the main character is a retired police detective who's now a lawyer, and his name is Stone Barrington, and it is corny.
Yes.
There's more gratuitous sex in that book than an average 10 novels of most books, but it's funny.
That's
the main character. I was in sales for 10 years. The main character is like one of the guys I couldn't stand to work with.
Really?
Oh yeah, the ladies just love him. Oh, they can't keep their hands off him. He's got them lined up in his spare time. That's the main character, but it's hilarious because he's poking fun of men. The whole book's poking fun of men, as I see it. If you believe that we're all like that, most of you will go off and live without us. Anyway, so yeah, I got a Stone Barrington that'll last a day at most, and the Kellerman book. His wife writes, and they've both written books with their kids.
Really?
Yeah. So the husband's written, I don't know, 40, 50. in different genres. And
Wow.
they've both written 2 or 3 with their daughters and son, their daughter and son. And I don't know about you, but it would be worth taking 3 times as long if you could help your son or daughter have 2 or 3 million sellers, so that the kids both have their own financial means.
Right.
You know, have a couple of 5 million each. Then you go, okay, I can leave my estate to anybody. It doesn't matter. My kids can get by on their own money. Anyways, I really like them for that. Okay, we should start so that we can get on to other things, but I really appreciate you. So I will do this.
I appreciate you.
When I go to edit later, it'll be like, oh, at the spot where I did this a lot.
Yeah.
So, okay, so then let's get started. So,
Okay.
hi, and thanks for watching. It's Michael Ballard from Resiliency for Life, and we're here to talk to one of the contributing co-authors of our book, 30+1 Incredible Stories of Resilience. Can you introduce yourself to our viewers, please?
Hi, Michael. I'm Theresa Cole. It's nice to meet you.
Nice to be met, Theresa.
I'm looking forward to getting into this. So,
well,
let's
so
talk about
are
it.
we. People need to hear your story, because your point of view, what you went through, how you went through it, and how that turned out will help open people's minds, because they need to know that there's choices when they're confronted with life's big issues, or as I like to say, big stuff moments. So share a little bit about, you know, where you started off in life and where you are now. And
Well, I grew up in a very small town. And right now I live in the city, and I actually work for an insurance company.
oh,
I'm a
okay.
group insurance underwriter. I have 2 boys.
And how old are they?
My boys are grown now. They are 30 and 21. And yeah, we have gone through some challenges in our lifetime. I say every day is an adventure.
It sure
And,
is.
and during that adventure, you have to find the ups, or the downs will take you too far down.
That's so true. So very true. So was your a health adventure or a relationship adventure, or?
Our adventure was our son's mental health adventure,
Yes.
and how it affects the family in the long run.
Yes. And it does. It truly does, because I have a relative that passed this past year, and she too had some big adventures and some big issues. And I got to meet her the day before she passed this summer, because her mental health pushed people away.
Mm-hmm.
And when she called me in her 40s in distress and was very vile with her words, I said it like this: I love you so much that if you ever do this again, I'll call the police, and I'll make sure that the judge throws the key away, because we're going to get you locked up because you're not well and you refuse treatment. And I love you, and I love you so much, I'm willing to have you hate my guts forever. So I see her this year, last July, and she goes, you know, dear, I know that you really love me, and you're the only one that visits other than my daughter. And she said, it's been quite something. And of course, her hearing was shot. So I would go,
oh, that's awesome.
and so she held my hand. I kissed her on the cheek a few times, and I'd gone there to tell her that her sister, my mother, had died. And of course, she was really limited vision in one eye, like 10% in one eye and legally blind in the other. And she couldn't really hear, and the nurse was being my translator, because the nurse's register was higher.
Oh, there you go.
She couldn't hear me, and she didn't clue in it was me. So I took her hand, and she recognized my knuckles.
Really?
I have very pronounced knuckles. I wish I could say it was from intense kung fu training. I was born that way. So she went like this, and she went, and of course, the family joke is, it's not that big, but it's bigger than normal. And her brother, my uncle, would go, meep. And then he'd do this to his mother's, meep, meep. And he back to me, meep. The bigger they are, the louder and deeper the sounds, right?
There you go.
She touched my nose and went, it's my nephew, Michael. And she got all soft and gooey. So I sat on the bed beside her, and she was down to skin and bones. But on her last day on earth, she said to me, they just told me I have depression and schizophrenia. Who knew?
Oh, how
I wouldn't
sad.
talk about it. I was, let's see, 65. She hadn't talked about that for 30 years with me. She refused to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with me.
Right.
And I went to actually see a therapist in my 30s, because how do I help Auntie? Wouldn't listen. Auntie, you do have an issue. You just drank a whole bottle of wine. I got 4 ounces. You drank the whole thing in one meal. Like, come on. It tells me you have pain. It tells me that things aren't cool. And the therapist said, tell me about her. So when we're done, the therapist said, sounds like your auntie's got a really high IQ. When
Yes.
most women were just still girls in the office making tea, Auntie was doing programming for a major company.
Really?
She might have been one of the girls, and she sure was a looker her whole life, but she was being flown around the province, or state, you'd say, to help the boys do the programming.
Amazing.
The higher the IQ, the tougher it is to resolve mental health issues, because they keep trying to think they can think it out.
Yes. Very manipulative.
Yep. Oh.
Because they can figure everything out. Yes.
Yep. Brought passive aggressive to a whole new level.
Right.
And only when I banned her and barred her for 20 plus years, and only when she finally signed herself into this special home for aged, did I start to write. I sent her picture letters.
Oh.
So 8.5 sheets of paper, blow up a picture, 1 sentence in 16 or 18 point font.
So she could see it.
2 per page. Auntie visited your sister. Here's the garden by the bird bath that you've seen in the past. Auntie visited your sister. The front garden. Dad doesn't get around much anymore, so they've turned it all into perennials.
I'll bet she loved it.
She kept them all.
Yeah.
Well, mental health drives people away. So when you have the courage to work through it, find a path where you can still talk. I, at 30 odd years old, with Auntie being 10, 15, 20 years older than me, I couldn't find a path. And she was deep in. I mean, being a cheeky guy trying to keep her safe, I checked her medicine cabinet, and she was triple doctoring in the 80s. The pain was deep, so she was trying to medicate to the point where, it was all prescription, but it was 3 different doctors.
And the wrong kind.
And, well, stuff that was meant for short-term emergencies, 3 to 6 months. And when you were on it for 10 and 20 years, makes your mental health worse, actually.
Right.
So knowing that she got safe, knowing that she started seeing some clarity was a big victory for me. But to have one of your own children go through it is a whole different story. So what are some of the lessons that came up and percolated to the surface?
I think the first lesson I learned was you have to be the advocate for your child.
Yes.
No matter what's going on and how people are taking it, you have to be the advocate and help people see the reality and let them know how intelligent they are, what they can accomplish, just what the little things they need to make things better.
Yes, totally agree. I just have friends with a child that's young that seems to have some issues, and it's like, so what are the highlights? Oh, marks in school through the roof. What are the lowlights? Oh, behavior, principal's office, been expelled, going to set a record within the whole school board district for the number of times expelled. And they're starting to grow. We're concerned that this that gets them in trouble is going to turn into this and this. And they have this control issue. And so I'm learning more about oppositional defiance disorder.
That's exactly what we dealt with.
That is a very complex issue. And you factor in Tourette's, and you factor in a couple other things. And this child with the high IQ, it's like, oh my gosh. So we've been working on the Tourette's because we've got them from triplets to duplets, which is exciting. Because everybody now wants to medicate, but he's not very old. And if you can brain train, if just one thing gives them a greater sense of control.
Brain train is absolutely right.
And so their first part of Tourette's.
Write that down.
Yes, please. When you speak out, for argument's sake, his volume is a 5 out of 10. His second one is an 8 out of 10. And his third Tourette's outburst is an 11 out of 10. Well, by getting him to only do duplets instead of triplets, by training him to have some sense of inner control on his inner world, his inner locus of control, experts would call it. I'm Mr. Mike Mike. And Mr. Mike Mike is one of his best friends. I've only seen him for 2 days, 5 sessions, 20 minutes a time. And nobody had ever tried to teach him any skills.
Amazing.
And he's going to hit puberty soon and working with other kids with Tourette's. I know the 14-year-old I work with Tourette's, when a young lady came in the room, he was very, very vocal about the 3 body parts that were very fetching, to use old words. And I'd been to that camp 7 times out of 10 years, and I knew that young girl that was fetching when she was 4. And at 4, she had a smile to melt your heart. She just has unconditional love from grandma. So when she talks to you or looks at you, it's like, oh, I've met an angel. Literally, and at 4, I thought, I've met an angel. And Grandma, what's she like? Michael, the child is so loving, it makes me wonder, how can we possibly be related? Because I'm a grouchy old beep. But at 14, this young lady had the same smile. And I brought the grandmother over and I said, she could be arrogant, she could be pompous because she's special, but she's kind, she's generous, and she talks to me as an equal, which I really thank her for, because she is very charming. Grandma said, yeah, we had that talk about looking charming. It doesn't do much for you except get in the way and attract the wrong type of attention. So you better not try it on me when I'm alive, or any man while I'm alive, because it'll get you in trouble. But this young man with his Tourette's saw her and he named 3 body parts. And this young lady was almost Hollywood starlet, 25 years old, perfect at 14. So by having him learn how to manage that a little bit, he woke up the camp director. Mr. Mike Mike. And he in his own way told him that I helped him do doubles instead of triples.
Oh.
So yeah, oppositional defiance disorder is a real big bugaboo.
It is. It is. It takes a village.
It sure does. When my coaching client had one at 6 or 7, we used to go to the playground. I got along. I'd known the child since 3 or 4 months old. So I was sort of honorary big brother, uncle, and the parents would just sit the other side of the playground. I said, because your reputation's at stake here. We're in a small town. Nobody knows that I know him. And if he suddenly decides to be a beast on me and tell people I'm hitting him or hurting him, I don't want you to have the children's aid involved. So you need to be eyes on, but give them space. So we used to reverse roles. I want you to pretend to be the parent. I'll be the kid. So I would chase him around as the, good cops, bad guys, good guys, all that stuff. And it was a lot of fun. And in my 40s and 30s and 50s, I had a lot of energy, but I'm starting to slow down for some reason.
Yeah, that's a little hard to run those laps now.
Yeah, so at some point, though, we'd switch roles. I said, okay, we've been equal and having fun. Although I did whack myself on the bar up on the 3rd level of this thing because it was built for kids under 12, not people. Oh.
Yeah.
So we switched roles. So I said, okay, now it's time for, we played as equals. Then we played as I'm the parent and you're the child. And now it's your turn to be the parent. So he'd say something. I go, no, you can't make me. Try to pick me up and move me. He used to laugh so hard, I thought he was going to hurt himself. He totally got it. I said, so you get it here, and you get it here, but it's hard to do, right? So, okay, that's all I wanted to know. Because once you understand it and once you feel it, I'm not here to judge. If I was perfect, do you know how unbearable I'd be? I wouldn't talk to your type. And if you were perfect, you probably would want to talk to my type. I said, right. If we can stay respectful, then we can go somewhere. We can get things
right. Yes, be kind.
It took everything I had to help him to bring, we took trust for 4 or 5 sessions. And that was the 4th or 5th session where I said, so you get this defiance, oppositional disorder. I said, so it's just not easy to do, right? Well, no, not easy at all. So I said, okay, now that you know it and now that you feel it, now what sets you off? Because 3-hour tantrums are exhausting for you. get you in trouble with school, and we need you to be successful in school, not because we're trying to be bossy, but that's how you make money, to have fun. If you want to buy a big computer monitor when you're older and play world-class computer games and high IQ, right? Great reflexes, and probably beat 99 out of every 100 people. I said, I've met people who make a part-time income and they're not 15 to 20 years old playing paintball. I had one of my students at 16 made 12,000 a year in paintball competitions.
Really?
Yep, his mom had to go with him. We stayed in touch for a couple of years till he turned 18 or 19. He was being flown around the States. So he said, it's not a job, it's not a career, it's a hobby that pays me 12,000 a year. And I get $6,000, $7,000 worth of gear every year. And I get to write it up. Knee pads, elbow pads, face guards, breathing masks. But I'm good. Strategy good, and physically athletic. And you get when I'm allowed to walk a course, my competition hates me because then I can do drop and rolls and jump over and flips and shoot in the air and shoot between my legs. So I said to this young guy, that's what's out there. That won't pay for everything, but that would pay for school. The more school you take with your incredible brain, the more money you're going to make. So I use my sales model for persuasion if I can get through. I can't get through to every child, though. And not every parent can pay anything. I mean, I can help to a point, right? But you can't spend 40 hours for 2 months with one child and not get anything. I got internet bill even. But I found it amazing that a lot of them, they get diagnosed and then there's nothing. And it's like, no, there's always something.
There is something.
The boy with Tourette's, calmness, telling him that he had the gift of loud and fast, and that with the energy of quiet and slow, he could control this a little more often. And the more he practiced, he might go from 3s to 2s. Well, we went from 3s to 2s in just 2 days with 5 or 6 sessions.
Wow.
So you can imagine with practicing 20 minutes a day, what he could do within a couple of years. From triples to duples to maybe only onesies. Now it's just a really annoying habit as opposed to get you an arrested habit, because at 30, if he said to the 14-year-old, if he said to my daughter and I didn't understand Tourette's, to be me and the police and him by the ear saying, first apologize, and now about the broken nose, you're lucky that's the only thing. Good for you to work this through. So is this the 21-year-old or the older one?
21.
So he's got the physicality now. He's launched physically. Is he
Yes.
in school or?
He is in school. He's in Full Sail University, and he is going for video game design and imaging.
Why did what can I tell you? Not all, but a lot of the young men with these issues, video games, and video games. And one said, well, it's my world. It's safe.
It is.
I won't get a broken nose by being inappropriate online.
Doesn't have to be social with anyone.
No. No. And the other group that spends a lot of time there are, some of my coaching clients have PTSD. They like online because they said, I can just close it up and walk away if I get triggered. Or I just type in triggered and leave the game, and they all understand.
Right.
And I just can't say triggered to a stranger who I was ready to belt because they gave me a glare. It's like, okay, works for me. I tried video games with my youngest daughter just for fun, and I found out that at 37, a 12-year-old's reflexes are so fast that despite my strategy and 25 hours of practicing before she ever tried the game, first time out of the gates, she didn't just beat me, she blew me out of the water.
No kidding. Yeah, he just
I never won more than 1 out of 100. And after a couple hundred games, she was bored because that dad guy, the old guy, just. I said, but I have these strategies. How do you do it? Because she was on the other side. Oh, Dad, I just hit these keys a lot. And I just fire, and you just can't keep up. So good for him. Good for him. So what semester is he in?
He is in his 2nd semester. He tried going to a university, a normal university, the first year. Did not work out.
Nope.
We said, you have one more try.
Yes.
And so far, so good.
Good.
And it's all online, which he likes a lot better. He's able to focus better, do it when he wants to do it. He doesn't have to sit in lectures.
Yes.
And that's very difficult for him. So we're crossing our fingers.
It's been suggested to me, I did some work with early childhood educators. So they all had an honors degree in this and a master's in that and certifications at this, certifications in that. And I said, so I remember the one of them, I said, tell me about that. Oh, that was a 3-semester certification. I said, isn't that inside your master's? Oh, no, that was on top of. What about this one? Oh, that's a seven university master's level credit. And what about this one? That was an extra year. That was 14 credits. I said, so you almost have your PhD. Oh, she said, yeah. But they always said to me after we worked together, Michael, if anybody you probably have ADHD. I said, oh yeah. And some other stuff. Oh yeah, just not going to pay to get tested at 50 to 60 years old anymore. But I can really relate to the kids. Oh,
Excuse me.
bless you. Cheers. It's water.
Yeah.
It's water, not vodka or gin, just to be clear for the viewers. So to help our kids, help ourselves, help our families, you got to recognize there's an issue.
Exactly.
And then you looked around.
It was hard to maneuver through the mental health system 22 years ago. Well, not that long ago. It was, probably, it was 17 years ago, 18.
Okay.
And even find people to tell you who to talk to, where to go, what to do. So, yeah.
I mean, nothing to do with mental health, but with my cancer issues in the 80s, I got fed up with the number of people telling me, if you just ate this, it's better.
Right.
When did you get your PhD in research and science?
Right.
So yeah, it's been a challenge, I'm sure, because I know working with some families, it's like, Michael, you're the 19th person and you're the only one that's got skills when you help. And I'm like, what do you mean? This little person, I've worked with kids as young as 3 who have been victimized for people doing terrible things to kids. We always do skills. And I had a world expert. He's world renowned. You can't help kids till they're 7 or older. And I went, well, we use movement, music, rhythm and movement and walking and playing. I mean, I have a game I play with kids, boys usually, where it's slow racing. You and I are going to start at this end of the room and go to the other end of the room. And the last one there has won. What's the opposite of race? Well, we'll call it a slow race. And they always zoom the first time. And I said, well, if this was a fast race, you won. But this is a slow race. You have to walk so slow you almost fall over. And you have to crouch down just in case you fall. You should see the look on their eyes where, Mr. Michael, that makes my brain feel funny because you're training them to go slowly.
Right.
Heel. Put your heel down. Feel your heel. Feel your heel. Feel the pad of your ball of your toes. Oh, feel your toes. Lift off. Okay. Go slow. It's remarkable. I've had these little kids. Nobody's once has ever got them to go slow. It's breathtakingly amazing.
Right.
And again, I go back to Shaolin Kung Fu, giving me the foundations of this. A friend who's trained in several types of dance went, Michael, you're giving early dance lessons. This is what we do with kids, depending on the type of child. He said, well, everything old is new again. And we've lost touch with our bodies in our society because there's pills, computers, and talk.
Right.
Start with the basics, the body.
Right.
So you ask for help, you look for help. You probably got some.
Well, we were very fortunate in that. Well, first of all, we found out it was best to educate ourselves first. So my husband and I started therapy first because our son was too young.
Yes.
Supposedly too young. And so that's what was the very beginning of our journey. And then therapy with him started, and things weren't going so great. Luckily, you talk to different individuals, and we were very fortunate that we were at a baseball game when, well, for multiple summers, because our oldest played baseball forever. And one of the other parents was the director of a program here in town that deals with oppositional defiance. And it's actually through Boys Town, if you've ever heard of it.
I've
But
heard
anyway,
but don't know what they are.
yeah. But anyway, they're one of the few places in the country that had the type of program at the time, and to get into it wasn't easy because it's costly and other things you have to get, evaluated and such. But at the time, he saw us dealing with struggles, and he said, if you ever really need help, I know the best therapists, the best doctors. Give me a call. And when things got to a point in our household where it was seriously getting dangerous to himself and others, then
yeah, you're bringing back memories for this kid I work with. Yep.
Yeah, we called that individual, and basically, long story short, we got him into the program. But like you said, they told us we're going to do brain surgery, and we're not going to use a knife. We're going to retrain his brain.
Yep, it's brain training. I
Yes.
mean, I'm not a degreed expert, but I've had the grandparents camp. There was 860 grandparents as families across Canada with no parents in sight for all the reasons: death, addiction, jail.
Mhm.
And these kids had issues. And part of the reason some of the parents were in jail is they'd hurt the child. They were so frustrated.
Sure.
Some of them had gone off and they were so frustrated they got an addiction issue because their child wasn't perfect. Well, who thinks you're going to have a kid that at 2 can scare you and frighten you with their anger?
Yes. And we ourselves had to learn the program so that we could also help him retrain his brain.
Yep. So I'm a supplement. I'm never a program in its own. I just help take some rough edges off to help keep them safer till they find
the appropriate venue. Yes.
Appropriate experts. But if you're geographically isolated, sometimes there is nobody local, or even 5 hours drive away. So
Right.
I always say I'm glad I can help you through Skype, but this needs to be escalated because this is just bandages, and some of them will stick forever. But there's a life here, and especially when you're dealing with an 86-year-old grandmother with a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Like this child needs to get to safety like ASAP.
Yes.
And one grandma said, yes, on my $16,000 a year pension, I'm raising a 12-year-old that has issues that cost $300 an hour.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, I did my best to help keep everybody safe and get a better night's sleep, and you go forward. But with yours, you learn the program, and that's amazing. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. That's awesome to hear.
You do it out of necessity, but it just becomes part of who you are.
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Yep. I had a neighbor who said, we need to talk. And I said, why? Because you don't treat my son like anybody else in the neighborhood. I said, well, you told me he had the following issues.
Mm-hmm.
So I changed my approach. And when he finally went from nonverbal to verbal, what did he say in the first day? And Michael's my friend.
Oh, that just warms my heart.
So in connecting and engaging with kids, I always ask the kids, so what's one way you say hello? I said, I'm old enough, there was only one real way to say hello to people you didn't really know. And you put your hand out, you shook it. But we now know that with age and race and viruses and all of the reasons, we don't just shake hands anymore.
Uh-huh.
If we're some families hug, some people in my family are huggers and some aren't. And these are all good and not bad. But, Toronto's now got over 101 cultures. So I worked in a public school a couple of years ago, and the kindergarten kids, oh man, so much love in the room. So at the end, I said, as you leave, fist bumps, no handshakes. That way nobody shares a cold. Well, after the recess, 12 young ladies that were Muslim came in and said, Mr. Ballard, we're not allowed to touch people we don't know. I said, air high fives from 4 feet away. Nobody can say you touched me. So we did high fives, low fives, and 5 silly fives. And at the end of the day, their friends from JK and SK came to tell me that I was very kind to talk to their special friends that are Muslim, and could they give me a group hug? So I had 30 kids. I moved in front of the principal's office so they could see me. I went, and she was on the phone. She comes up, what was that? I said, well, we did fist bumps because I don't want to, just in case, they're young and vulnerable and don't want to share germs. And I said, but then a delegation came to me at recess saying that their friends that are Muslim can't do fist bumps. And how else could I say hello? So I said, so we did air high fives from 4 feet away. She went, oh, we'll keep you in file. Then she early retired, and that was the end of that. But it's amazing how we can get through to the kids from different points of view. And you had the courage to take the whole course for yourself and your husband. And then you got your young man into therapy.
And I tell you, every single person that worked with my son, even though he could be very difficult, every single person told us they loved him, that they enjoyed working with him.
Now, my one coaching client in Wisconsin, does it run in the family?
ADHD does.
Yes.
Not necessarily the ODD portion of it.
Okay. Just curious because I've never seen that. I've never gone looking for it because it's not something I get asked to help with very often.
He is adopted, so I don't know everything.
Oh, okay.
But I know the mother's background, but not the father's.
Right. Okay. So it's not a character flaw, obviously. And I was just reading an article about the special gifts for those of us that have unique styles, ADHD, ODD, because for those of us that have relatives with that condition too, some of us are sort of fearless. You manage it, and you can speak to authority when they're wrong, saying, no, this could lead to this, and people get killed. And the memo's being written, so your name will be on there for saying no.
So true. So
I can really relate to them. So I will, well, for the viewers, there's a thing called the Forte Report, and it's a 20-minute, if you can understand English and read English at a 12-year-old level, not grade 12, just 12 years of age, there's a 20 to 60-minute test you take, and it gives you a 3-page overview, and a 20-page in-depth analysis of 4 personality traits we all have. And so the 4 traits, well, one of them is got ODD in invisible ink on it, I swear it. And it looks at your sense of dominance and you're wanting to be in charge and taking nothing from nobody else. No marching orders, don't talk to me.
Right.
So the one young man, he was 13, he took the course and he was in the top 0.25% for dominance. And from the age of 2.5, you can't tell him to wash his hands before he eats supper. Tell him to eat supper, mind your own business. The mother said, he'll go to bed and starve to death, but don't tell him when to eat. He said, oh, Michael, I love him to bits. He's so kind sometimes, but this defiance or dominance, according to the Forte Report, is quite interesting, So I will put the website in the link for people that are interested, because I found that for $80 American, it was very insightful. I remember I gave my mom my copy. She looked at the overview and she went, how many days did they spend with you? I said, didn't, filled it all online. It was 20 to 60 minutes.
Amazing.
And she read, and then she kept it for a month. My dad read the overview and went, yeah, they nailed you. This is you. My mom was like, after she read the whole 20 pages plus the overview, if parents could get this the day their child was born, the smart parents, parenting stress would be cut in half, child's grades would go up, trouble would go down. I said, oh, it's brilliant. So one of the key indicators is, where are you on the profile for your sense of dominance? So this young man that was in the 0.25%, his mother's like, to my words, Lord love a duck. That explains why I've wanted to wring his neck since the day he was old enough to say no. The dominance, introvert, extrovert, of course, extroverts love to be around others. Introverts don't. They like peace and quiet and contemplation time. That doesn't fit into it. Pacing, that's how fast you like to get things done. While the little boy, he was fast paced. adults were slow and not too smart. And when
Mm-hmm.
parents finally got him tested as an adolescent, he was in the top 1% for IQ. So slow, no patience, because people are stupid. And it
Mm-hmm.
made it even easier to say no, because as the mother and the father said, it's like he can think around corners.
Yes.
And then the last one that fits in with dominance is compliance. Are you willing to dot your I's and cross your T's correctly and neatly? Well, this young man, no, read between the lines. I told you what I wanted. Why should I write it down too? That's just stupid and a waste of time. Well,
Oh
that
God.
was at 12 or 13. And so as I got the parents to advocate him for him in school, eventually it was like, so how are you? We're all safe. We're all doing well. And the school psychologist called us that he'd had in grade 8 when he got out of grade 12, because apparently the whole Board of Education holds him up as, when we all work together and the parents work with us, here's what's possible. No juvie, no police record. He won't do
Exactly.
prison time in the foreseeable ever. And I went, wow, because the board here's got 67, 69 child behavior experts. And I've
Wow.
only worked with a couple of dozen kids in this region, because it's not something I promote, because I'm got bigger things I want to accomplish than doing one-on-one counseling. I'll do it, not a problem. I just don't pursue it. People find me. Anyways, and to think that they'd follow this young man from grade 7, 8, all the way to grade 12. He graduated, woo! And nobody got hurt. And I found out that later, it's not uncommon for a finger to be sprained, or a finger broken, or a broken nose. And it was like, yeah, from the other ones I've met too, I could see how things would escalate. And with that high IQ, the ability to use words, I mean, I know there's Sheldon Cooper with words type and no filters. Well, this one had some emotional intelligence, so he could make the words even hurt more. He just didn't give you a poke, the mother said. He gave you a poke, but it was like a poke from a fishing hook. It went in and barbed, and then he pulled back after he poked. She said, oh, by 6 years old, my own son was making me cry, and I'd go in and lock myself in the bedroom for a good cry, because this is my own flesh and blood. So for you to work this through with him, awesome. And just huge. Because investing now is a lot cheaper than trying to fix later.
Yes. I think this child can be anything he wants to be.
Well, you know, I know a software expert in Europe, and they have changed their hiring criteria because they found those of us with unique profiles are much better at doing certain tasks. So they pay them above average. They have created a section in the whole company where they can go do their thing. So some of them have the world-class best noise canceling headphones ever, because noise is always a distraction.
Yes.
And they're monitored for work output, but not by the day, not by the minute. Here's your chunk of work. It has to be done in the next 60 hours. If you do it all in a mad rush and it comes out with the right quality in the last 20, great. We don't care what your score for games is online. Get it done. And she said, and some of them do work in 5 days that I can't do in 6, and they're more accurate. She's the one with the master's degree and all these things. And she said, so I'm in charge. I'm the 30,000 foot person that knows how to do it, but I can't do it like them. She said, it's quite remarkable. And she read about a group in Calgary, Alberta, Edmonton, Alberta, Calgary, Alberta, to the north. And there's a company there that deliberately hires for a lot of company tasks, people of very specific, unique styles. Not the 70 to 80% of normal people, whatever that is, but those of us that are not in the norms, because in 2 of the scores, out of those 4, I tested in the top 3%.
Wow.
And so the compliance one, it was written by somebody who's a statistician, psychologist. So he talks high compliance and low non-compliance. And if you're a plus and 0 in the middle, plus 36 high compliance, you want your tax accountant to know the law to that level. But then you want your tax accountant and lawyer to know how to tell the IRS, or in our case, Revenue Canada, well, we interpret the law this way, not this way. So we're going to pay you everything that you think we should pay you, but then we're going to go fight you and arm wrestle you on this, intellectually speaking. So that's how it was explained to me, that you want your tax lawyer and tax accountant to be very highly compliant because nobody wants to do any time for the sake of a nickel or more. On the other hand, once it's in, we're going to challenge you. So I met an accountant who had a 70-odd% success rate challenging a revenue agency on this side, Canadian side of the border, and he was building a team for the American side. I tell my clients, you pay them everything they want and 1% more. Be kind, and then we're going to fight them tooth and nail. He said, Michael, I stand on the legal line and I lean. I'm never falling over though, but I lean. And so he has his own compliance issues, and yet he's managed to get his degrees and designations. He said, I hate it when an auditor comes in and tells one of my clients, you need to pay an extra $16,000 here. He goes, well, no, we fought you 3 times in 1. So we fight them again. Then we lodge a complaint because you're wasting my time, cost my client money. So as long as it's done with respect, we need these people because they're the ones that keep saying the standards are broken. Mm-hmm. We can't do it that way. We have to do it a better way. Or as I was taught, we'll agree with you for now on paper and we'll pay, but we're coming to get you later. Legally. So good for him. That is so exciting. So what are some of the lessons you learned? I can imagine some of them, but what are some of the lessons learned?
I think one lesson I've probably learned is that I used to be much more judgmental, I think. And now I think we have no idea what the person next to us is going through.
Yep.
And you have to be kind and not rush to judgment on, not everyone is perfect, like you said.
Yeah, boy, I'm really not even halfway up the list of getting close. And I'm still trying to learn how to help others when it's not my job. But I live near a 2-person family where the 12-year-old was painfully lonely and inappropriate with me. So I had to get my wife to tell her she couldn't come near me anymore. But she didn't have a dad, and it struck me that the mother had mental health issues or addiction issues or both. And this kid was starved for attention. But she had an girl saying teenage pregnancy or worse. Because by 13, she was 6 foot tall, long, tall, blonde hair. She was well on the way to being a breathtaking beauty. She was definitely a breathtaking cutie. When I work with kids, I define that until you're 21 to 25. Somewhere there you move from cutie to beauty. That's differentiating that you're not old enough to be anything but a coaching client. But if I was 25 and single and you were 25 and single, you wouldn't be a cutie anymore, you'd be a beauty.
Right.
Always with the parents in the room, of course. But this, oh, you don't do that? No, kids have been sexualized these days since they're 6 and 7. So let's acknowledge a little tiny bit. Tell them about boundaries. Tell them about expectations. And so it's nice. I have a 20-year-old that lives in my complex. He goes, Mr. Ballard, you always make me feel wonderful. I said, well, you're smart. You're articulate. You're very polite. You're very interesting. And you don't flaunt your good looks with me ever. Then I've been known to tease her, say, is that just because I'm so old? But we have real conversations. Yeah. And her mother sees me every couple of months and goes, you talk to her again. She just loved it. I said, well, I haven't even had a handshake with your daughter. Never mind a hug. I don't want to, don't need to. But it's so nice to nurture them in a way that's safe, but also include parts that other people just avoid. Like, no, don't be scared of the young lady. You know, stay smart, be articulate, be respectful. So you asked for help, got the training. You built a team of experts in the school board, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely.
And included the teachers often or always.
Yes, always.
Then probably had some experts outside of the program at the Boys Town.
He was actually in an inpatient program for 18 months. And then afterwards, outpatient therapy, you know,
okay,
every month or so. And then we also had the school. He was in a program there until he was able to wean out of it. And it was all a process,
Yes.
but and every day's still an adventure sometimes.
Oh, I have no doubt. I have no doubt. Well, when I get my Imagine Yourself program fully packaged, then I will share a copy because I would love you to review it. And if it fits, I would love other people in the house to review it.
Yes,
Or people that don't live at home anymore even to review it.
that'd be awesome.
I found this gap, as I see it, between 2.5 years old to 7. Often experts say there's nothing we can do. When
And
I was,
that's what most should be done.
and that's when I've had some big successes. I'm
Yeah.
not an expert. I'm a tour guide.
Hmm.
I'm going to take you on a tour into the land of Imagine Yourself. Imagine yourself with more energy or calm energy, loud energy or fast energy, slow, quiet. It's amazing how they respond if you make it age appropriate.
I believe it.
I got asked to work with, and I did twice, people who survived concentration camps in Europe.
Really?
They were all 88 to 103, 102. This is back in 95, 99. So I assume, God bless them, that they've all passed by now. The young ones were 88. So it's 20 years. But it was amazing that with all their years, they've only ever had medication and therapy, no skills.
Oh.
I find it terribly sad that our culture is so fractured that, psychotherapist, I can't teach that. And the therapist, psychologist, I can't teach that. And we like your approach. One said, you know more about this than I do. I'm not allowed to do it. She said, what can I do to a 4-year-old or for a 4-year-old? So congratulations for the courage to grow out of your just knowing that as a parent, this was bigger than you. And enough love and respect to bring the spouse along and then eventually the child. And wow, this is great. I really look forward to your chapter in the book.
Well, good.
So thank you.
I look forward to doing it.
Absolutely. So what's the biggest thing or one thing you did that mattered to you?
One thing I did that mattered. That's a good question. I think probably is listen.
Okay.
Because, I think really listen, because sometimes the frustration would get to a very high level and you just have to take a deep breath, sit back and say, if we can't talk about it now, let's meet in 10 minutes and then we'll talk about it.
Smart, really wise, good for you. Well, that's what we're looking for at the end of your 1,000 words. And that's okay. And the one thing I learned is listen. And that phrase you just said, if we can't talk about it now, can we do it in 10? That's awesome. So thank you very much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
I'm Michael Ballard from Resiliency for Life. Imagine yourself with more resiliency for life, because I know you have got lots of resiliency. Thank you for your sharing.
Thank you.
I will send the link for this when it's edited and I put it up.
Okay.
Thank you. Toodly-doo.
You bet.
Bye-bye.
See you later.
You bet.